Hi, I'm Catherine Pryor for Author Magazine. Tonight I'm speaking with best-selling crime novelist Lisa Gardner. We met at Third Place Books and spoke about how she has maintained her professional momentum, 27 books in under 20 years. Enjoy.
Well, my writing schedule has evolved through the years. Right now I'm writing one book a year. So I spend 3 months on research, 6 months drafting, kind of an immersion style. Still, 20 years later, I have to say I spend 3 months on editing. I keep thinking that's the part that might go away, but I'd like to say that each book is its own challenge, not that I don't have any learning curve whatsoever. I think one of the things that sets me apart as a suspense novelist is I don't have any kind of background in suspense. I have the only gene pool in the world that doesn't have a fireman, an EMT, a detective. So the research for me is one of the most important parts, and that's why I like to spend 3 months. I always argue you can do some of your best writing before you ever start putting your hands to keyboard. And it is getting the ideas, it's finding those unique kernels that are really going to make your book, your manuscript, stand out on an editor's desk, because already in the query letter you're talking about things where like, I didn't know that. That's how you start capturing attention. I can only write one book at a time. I like to be one idea ahead. So for example, when I was writing Love You More, which is my current Detective D.D. Warren release, I started already thinking, well, what might be the next novel? And it was nice because by halfway through Love You More, partly based on some of the actions in that book, I started getting a sense of where I wanted the character to go next. And I build like a file of either articles in the news that have caught my eye. Sometimes when I'm researching one topic, say search and recovery dogs for Love You More, I come across something else. Maybe it's not right for Love You More, but it's like, okay, I want to do that next. So I start building a file, and then when Love You More is done, I go to my file and I'm like, okay, here's the very, very, very beginning of the next book.
Do you find the genre, or does the genre find you?
Ooh, that's a really good question for a writer. I think one of the things I've had to learn as a writer is that you have to do it to learn about it. It's one of the most hands-on jobs in the world. When I wrote my first novel when I was 17. And I picked romantic suspense because I not only read a lot of those novels and really liked them, but I didn't feel like I could do suspense. Again, I'm 17. What do I know about being a cop? What do I know about being a medical examiner? That sounded pretty scary. Whereas romantic suspense has a lot more emphasis on character. I think most writers, were fascinated by people. Over time, though, as I wrote more and more, I got very good at learning how to write about character. And character's still my most important thing. But I started coming up with really complicated plots. I started to learn how to do research. I think it's something good for writers to know that you do not have to have a personal connection to call law enforcement. Just by virtue of being a taxpayer, you can call your local FBI office and they will answer your questions. That was a huge thing for me in my career, to realize I didn't have to be Michael Connelly. I didn't have to be Lee Child. I could actually, with only a few books under my belt, call up the FBI and say, may I please come talk to you? And you can. And that set the stage to evolve to suspense. I think one of the interesting things about this career, and maybe it's authors' temperaments, is we're always waiting for that magic moment of, I've made it. I'm a serious author. I think 20 years, 27 novels, technically as of 3 weeks ago, I'm a #1 New York Times bestselling novelist. I think I've had to come to terms with there is no such moment. We are, by definition, I think Anne Lamott said it best, really neurotic creatures. We are not meant to have that moment. Writers write best when we're all about craft. When we're thinking about our characters, the voices in our head. And let's face it, it's not easy to write a novel, and it doesn't matter where you are in the New York Times. It doesn't matter what awards you have won. It doesn't matter how many books you've written. You just grow comfortable with being uncomfortable writing a novel. And I think once you know that, you settle in and you just feel really good with, yes, I'm incredibly neurotic and I don't think anyone reads me other than my mother, but let's do it again. The goal of this industry isn't publishing success. If you start out as a writer and you say, my goal is to be a #1 New York Times bestselling novelist, chances are you can get really frustrated really fast. The only thing we control as writers is craft. It's the book. I think our goal always needs to be to learn to be the best writers we can be. to start knowing, this is actually, now I realize, is the right genre or kind of story for me to be right. You know what? I write best first thing in the morning, so I'm going to stop trying to write now at 11 o'clock at night. The better you get at understanding your process, the better you get at your craft, the publishing success will follow that. So if we keep looking at being the best writers we can be, then success will follow.